You're on.
I'm on. It's on. Hey, welcome back. Eddie, fantastic question. I know that we look at people and what are their credentials, what's their training, where do they come from, who are you? Listen, all I can say is the Navy spent over $500,000 on my training. I didn't take notes though. Anyways, I've forgotten some things, but I remember some things too. So, ladies, this is for you, Eddie. Shout out, Jeremy. Don't say nothing, okay? We're not rangering up. We don't have to rub dirt in it. All right. Hardcore mother. Um, this is a suture kit. This is a suture. Okay. You can get them in kits. Oh, Ashley, that was a great comment you had. Those training kits that you can get on Amazon that have all the different kinds of wounds and cuts that you can get. That was wonderful. I was looking at those kits. That's a great idea. That training kit, I didn't know what you were talking about, so I researched it a little bit, and that's fantastic. There's many, many, many different kinds of sutures. They're all surgical. They're all intrusive. The ones that I like are not the ones that run in a continuous loop like a baseball stitch because it's one line. Listen, let's be honest, folks. If you're giving yourself or somebody a suture, chances are you still got some shit to do. So if that one stitch breaks, the whole thing's going to come loose. And what was the point of taking the time to do it? That's just me. I'm not a doctor, but anyways. A few things you need. Now, if you want to practice and you don't want to get a suture kit, you can get it's a sailor's needle. It's kind of like it's a hook, like if you had an oval and cut it in half, poke the eye in one end and sharpen the other, it's, a sailor's needle, so it's got a little curvature so you can do some stitches. All right. Another thing you need, you can't hold that needle and punch it through skin with your fingers. Well, I mean you can, but your patient's not going to like it. I know that's not your problem, but it might get noisy, and nobody likes loud noises except for me. I do. All right, so within a suture kit, which has everything you need, which is a little pair of tweezers, a little pair of hemostats. These are cool. It's like scissors that lock. You see that? They lock. Y'all know what that is. Bunch of potheads. And then a small pair of scissors. That's mostly for just cutting the tips off of your stitches after you get them in. Alright. Now we don't have a high-speed training kit, so we're just going to use an orange because it's kind of the same diameter as skin. It's the same thickness. And it's a good training aid, So, he's been cut. Oh, it's a wound. He's bleeding. So, look at this. You see, pretend that the flesh of the orange, she's laughing. It's okay. My camera woman is back and she's delightful. Love you, mean it. Pretend that's the flesh, that's the skin. This is real life. You've got a wound, it's opened up. Now, we've got some real big problems here. If you cut an artery or a vein within that, you're going to know. Hollywood got one thing right, because when a vein is cut and your heart beats, there is actually a squirt, and it's nasty. We got to talk about it for a second. The loss of blood. If you lose a pint of blood within 60 seconds, you're in serious danger of going into shock. If you lose 2 pints of blood within 120 seconds, well, I hope Doc's close by. Hey, Doc. How you doing? Appreciate y'all tuning in. Check this out. It's kind of rough. I mean, we're not talking about surgical procedures. We're talking about combat medicine. Okay, we're talking about loss of life and limb. We got to fix it now. There's so many different kinds of suture kits. I'm not going to get into the details. Okay, but basically there's one and the other. One is a braided fibrous line that does not dissolve, okay? The other one is one that does. So the one that does is the one that you're going to go deep with, okay? You're going to stitch maybe into the flesh to bond the skin, okay? That one will actually just dissolve and it'll go away, and you can actually take the knots on top and just pull them out after the wound heals. Not that I know anything about wounds. That's a burn from welding, but anyways, this is what they look like when you get them, okay? Now, if you're going to practice and you don't want to buy a kit, you can just get a sail needle and some lightweight 4 to 6 pound fishing line, and it performs the same way. These knots that I'm about to show you will work the same way. Alright, remember those knots we talked about in some of our first videos? Remember when I said it was a progression? Alright, see this? What we have here is a tiny little suture kit. Tiny little needle, tiny little line. Now, this particular line does not dissolve, so that means after you install it, it has to be cut out. That's why most suture kits come with a little pair of scissors, but a razor blade is a suitable substitute because you can just, you know, pop the stitches, pull them out. Now, the line, you got to go around, pop all these individual. You guys buy these kits, and you'll see that this is how they're packaged. This is how they come. Now, when we're talking about sterility, you know, look, if you're stitching someone up in the field, unless you guys are drinking lots of vodka and have some left over, you're not going to really be able to sterilize. So, put something into your kit. You know, iodine, rubbing alcohol, peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide iodine mix is ideal because those bubbles, you know, when you pour hydrogen on a wound and it bubbles out, that's getting a lot of that debris out. It's not necessarily the thing that caused your injury, whether it was a blade or a bullet or whatever. It's the nasty stuff that's on the surface of your skin that gets penetrated into your flesh. That's where real bad infections come from, you know, like staph and things like that. So when they're routing these things, they have a dead end. And now look, you know, remember we talked about dead end, working end. It's threading the needle, guys. So it's very thin. Oh my God, this thing is so old. Oh, it's falling apart. This has been in my truck forever. This isn't gonna work. Okay. Hold on. I mean, we're still in a situation. We still have a wounded man. We still need to stitch him up. Our suture kit is obviously not working. This line just disintegrated. Oh dear God, I hope everything's gonna be all right. It would if I used this. See this? Disposable skin stapler. These don't deteriorate, and they're so much easier to use. You don't have to know any knots. So check this out. You can pick these up at your local, sometimes you can find them at gun shows, Army surplus. You know, they come in real handy. And I mean, you need little to no training. You can actually, if you're cut, say anywhere and you're cut, you just take one hand, seal the wound, other hand with the stapler, and pop, 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 lock it up. Super easy. All right, let's see if we got more line in this kit. I literally found that. The needle's still good though. Take a look at that needle. See that? The way that works is you run the line through it. This is the sharp point. This is the eye of the needle. And you lock it like this. See? So this way, I can take it and run it. I can run my stitch. I'm not going to do it to myself right now, but that's actually how I learned. There was a bunch of guys that weren't qualified, so we had to give each other IVs and stitches, and it was a very good learning experience. It was also kind of a bloodbath, but it was, you know. All right. Let's see if we got another pair of. Oh, this is a suture removal kit. Okay. All right. That's okay. We can still train. Now the big thing that you got to know with sutures is the knots. Okay, like we talked about. Alright, so, alright, let's just pretend that we have line on here, okay? You know how we like to pretend that we're children and we have imaginations and we're not just, you know, trying to make money to pay bills. Let's try that for a minute. So, obviously, suture kit, I'm gonna show you guys two kinds of stitches. We're gonna go over the knots with actual line, and I'm gonna show you how to run the needle, okay? That's what we're doing because that's what we got. So, stitch number one, it's the most easy. Remember that earlier video where we talked about square knot? Now we're going to talk about surgeon knot. Same damn thing, just one more loop. Check it out. So, let's say that this yellow line, that's the one with the needle on it, okay? This is our working end, yeah? This one is our dead end, yeah? All right. So, what we're going to do with the first stitch I'm going to teach you, this is a surgeon knot. It's the most common. It's going to give you individual stitches instead of a running loop. So if one of them breaks, it's okay. The other ones don't rely on each other to maintain the tensile strength to keep that wound locked up. The main thing that you've got to pay attention to is when you're coming into the skin. Is there enough light? Let's do it like this. Can you guys see?
Let me make it bigger. Here, see.
All right, zoom in.
Okay, we're zoomed in on the orange, or this, the injured individual.
This is the buttocks. All right. I mean, there's a lot of meat there to work with, but the cool thing about practicing on an orange is the skin is about the same diameter of the epidermis. So, I mean, it's a good training aid. Now, what you want to do when you run that first stitch, you don't want to get it too close to the wound, because if I put that stitch right there, I mean, it's going to break the skin and it's going to come loose. So you want a little standoff. So I'm going to run the needle not into the flesh, but under the bottom of the skin. And when you actually run the needle and punch it through, even though you're holding a hemostat, you can feel it. So what I want to do is come in through the top, out through the other side. Now look, this is combat medicine. It doesn't got to be squared away. It doesn't got to be like brickwork. It doesn't got to be, you know, perfectly symmetrical. It looks a lot nicer if it is. We're not worried about scars. The next stitch I'm going to show you is better for scars. But you see that? You see how it's running?
Too close.
Okay. So, what I'm going to do is imagine this. Working end. Working end. Bitter end. Alright? My working end is going to be through the...
Covered by your hands.
My working end is going to be through the eye of the needle. Okay? So I'm going to pull it through. Then come over here. We're going to look at the knots. Doing the stitch, running that thing through the skin, it's not as difficult as you guys think. I mean, if it needs to be done, the blood, the nastiness, that's not going to bother you, you know? So, a surgeon knot is just like a square knot, okay? This is the one that has my needle in. We're going to poke it through, and we're going to wrap it. Right over left, left over right. Remember the square knot? That's the beginning of a square knot. The surgeon knot is just one more loop. That's it. Now, see that? Then I'm going to take that needle, that working end, and I'm going to wrap it around the dead end and pull it through. That's the surgeon knot. Okay? Now when I do that, damn it, I wish this shit didn't disintegrate. Now when I do that, I'm gonna run it through. Now when I'm coming back, because you don't really want to use your fingers. Alright, your fingers are great, but there's a reason that the suture kit came with tools, okay? So you're gonna have to get, kind of technical with it.